Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order for Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2023. Could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if you could please remain standing, we have Father Miguel from St. Mark's Roman Catholic Church with us this evening for the invocation.
God, the Father of mercies, Lord, may your goodness and love be present among us today. Come, bless our gathering with unity, hope, and vision. Lord, we pray for unity, build in us all the deep respect for one another so that this gathering might be blessed. Lord, we pray for hope. Come, see our hope within our hearts and renew our faith. Lord, we pray for vision. May your vision fill our lives. We seek to reveal your love, and we pray that your love will live among us always. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. You can be seated. And before we start the meeting, I just wanted to let everyone know that one of our public hearings we are not going to have this evening, and that is the item number 13, which is the draft of our general plan update. So if you came for that item, I just wanted to let you know that that will not be heard this evening. We are going to have a workshop in probably April, and then we will come back and reconvene about that. So I wanted to let you know so you didn't waste your, I'm not saying you're wasting your time with us, but on Valentine's Day, if you had something else you wanted to do, wanted to let you know that you're welcome to do that. So, okay, the roll call, please, Mr. Skolik.
Councilmember Musgrove.
Present.
Councilmember Nunez.
Present.
Councilmember Sanella.
Here.
Mayor, Deputy Mayor Jenkins.
Here.
And Mayor Jones.
Here. Okay, moving on, we have proclamations and presentations. If the council could please join me in the front. We're here to a long-time person in our city that's done a lot. Scotty Lombardi, come on down. Okay, this is bittersweet because you've done so much in the city. You can come around here. You've done so much in the city, but we really wanted to recognize you here this evening. He's leaving us, moving on to greener pastures. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe he'll be back at some point. Yeah. But anyway, this proclamation, the San Marcos City Council hereby recognizes you, Scotty Lombardi, whereas Scotty has demonstrated his commitment to community service in San Marcos through philanthropy, volunteerism, and leadership by serving many local organizations as a board member. He has frequently held officer positions at the board level, and whereas Scotty has been especially supportive to Cal State San Marcos in serving as a university council member for 6 years, San Marcos North Economic Development Council for 4 years, and Palomar College Foundations for 4 years, and of course, the San Marcos Promise for 2 years. And whereas Scotty also worked for San Marcos's largest private employer, Hunter Industries, for the past decade and advocated for many local profits through his service to the community, to the company's charitable giving and hands-on volunteerism committees. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on, so I'm really struggling here.
You're doing a great job.
I'm like, should I get, no, I'm good. His passion for improving the love of others, especially in the advancing access to education, workforce readiness, and economic development, have favorably impacted our San Marcos community. Now, therefore, we, the City of San Marcos, and the City Council would love to recognize you. And do you have anything to say for today?
Just really appreciative of the opportunity, the recognition. Certainly, you know, as someone who flies under the radar in terms of public recognition, I do it because it's the right thing to do and because a lot of people extended helping hands to me as a child and growing up, and so this is my way of giving back. And it's been a real pleasure to give back to this community in San Marcos specifically, and I will miss it. And you're right, maybe I will be back.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. You have a picture?
Yes, we're going to take one, and then Phil will have it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
So much. Thanks, Scotty. Thank you. Thank you. Take care.
In San Marcos, we have this thing that we call all of our volunteers, the things that they do, and it's called the San Marcos Spirit of Service. And that's, our community just always comes together and serves in incredible ways, and we really appreciate that. So Scotty exemplifies that, and I see the San Marcos Promise out here representing. Anyway, we sure appreciate our volunteers. So, moving on to the consent calendar, do we have any items which any council member wishes to pull? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, consent calendar is done. Now we have oral communications, and I actually do have a few. Okay. Okay, so our first speaker is Marlene Walder. Come on down, Marlene. Welcome. Followed by Melissa Palm.
Hello, council members and audience. I'm Marlene Walder. I live at San Marcos Mobile Estates. I haven't been speaking for a couple times lately, but I'm back. And I'm back with a couple issues. One is our park. And back when we did the rent review, I was given the following month a notice to clean up and or move out within 3 weeks of the property. And my house is just full of plants, or my driveway and the side area, but I have a lot of plants. And I understand it doesn't look as appealing to some people, but there are other people who have junk, and there were only 3 of us who got the notice. But that's besides the point. They, at the rent review time, they said they were going to do the streets, and they did some of them, but now some have sunk. The slurry seal did not stick. The streets that weren't done, where the alligator thing that the gentleman had said there was, the rocks are coming out, that not all the areas were completed. My windows, which I had complained for 2 or 3 years now, that the rubber stripping is coming out. Nothing was done when COVID ended, and now there's 2 windows, and I've planted the area, or it's full of plants, and now they will have a problem reaching that area, so they're going to say, well, you have too many plants, and we told you to get rid of things. But it would have been done in a timely manner. Nothing would have been out of place. They would have been able to get to that. I have another complaint about the traffic. I was coming from Woodland Parkway going to our park, and the people coming from Mission onto Barham going towards Woodland Parkway but turning left on Lamore. I've never seen this many cars as I saw yesterday and today 7 cars in line turning, and the light had already changed for me to go straight ahead on green, and only 5 of the 7 cars could make that light. And 2 days in a row I've seen that, and they're going through on the red light. But the traffic has never been more than 3 cars. And so now they're using La More to go all the way around to skip the traffic and come out maybe by the college or go to the college, because the cars lined up going straight ahead for the college is like 40 cars. And it's getting harder and harder for us to get out of the mobile home park. And it's more and more dangerous because even though it says do not block the driveway, the cars cannot see that sign who are in the, the lane to go straight through, waiting to turn left onto the freeway going towards Mission, but on the Barham Freeway side. As for our rent review, the pool, which was one of the issues, they had resurfaced they didn't resurface it, they painted it. But the jacuzzi hasn't worked more than 2 months since last year. They did away with the pool cover, which kept the heat in, which has now increased their electric bill. And the pool has always been covered during the winter, and they're not covering it during the winter now. And we've always had a heated pool because the pool is used for medical reasons for many of us. But having no jacuzzi is more important for many of the people. I don't use it, but it's not right that the jacuzzi has not been fixed in a year's time. And it wasn't working the year before, but it was part of the agreement that they were going to fix the pool. Thank you.
Marlene, one thing I would like to bring up is you may want to, some of your concerns may be addressed by the report of concerns, so I might ask you to do that. That's you can find that on our website. It's Report a Concern, and we also have an app if you happen to have a smartphone. So some of the stoplight questions, that sort of thing, you may want to check that out, and we can certainly get that to you as well.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Next will be Melissa Palm, followed by John Mosier. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Thank you for letting me speak this evening. This is my first time doing this, so bear with me. Thank you, all of you. My name is Melissa Palm. I represent Valley Christian School. We are in District 2. And you may have received some phone calls recently from some parents at our school because we have been incredibly affected just recently since the Christmas rains with the creek project has caused an increase in debris coming downstream. It has taken out our fencing along our playground, making our playground completely we can't use it at all. And we've been at this location for 47 years, and we have record enrollment this year, and I have tried to call multiple agencies, departments within the city, as well as people in connection with the creek project itself, and have been told multiple times that people will come and check it out to see who's responsible for cleaning this up. And we have not heard back from anybody yet, but we're looking forward to speaking with somebody, having somebody contact us at some point to try to figure out how we can take care of this. We are kind of in that sweet spot where the county meets the city, and so there's we almost feel like we're in this dead zone of who's responsible. So I'm just here to ask that maybe somebody could give us a call, and that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melissa. This is not an agendized item this evening. However, I do know that Public Works has been working on that, and there was a parent, I think, that has been working with Jess Culpepper over at our Public Works. So I think they will be able to be in contact, and I know they've been working on trying to figure out a few things. So I just want to let you know that. Thank you. John Mosier, followed by, I think Glenn Wynn. Item 13 was actually, we're not going to see that this evening, but I'll still let you speak if you'd like to. But John, go ahead and come on up, please.
Hello, all. I'm John Mosier, San Marcos Mobile Estates, also San Marcos Mobile Home Resident Association. I'm here today to ask that the one thing we missed at the hearing was an accurate inspection of our park. We're not set up for it, safety and health. I looked at Oceanside in their mobile home group. They actually have a group that oversees them and inspects them every year before any raises or increases can go through. What I did is I made a copy of those inspections and gave them to a few of you that we could maybe discuss as a guide. I've also looked at actually going down to Oceanside. The first Thursday of every month, their group, the mobile home practices group, has their hearing every month at that time, to even talk to them further about how they work it and maybe how we could work something like that in here at our city. We have a lot of parks that need the same thing we do, and that's somewhat to take a look at it, especially this time of the year. And so far, we don't have it. The other thing that I came to talk about is that after going through the rent review, it became apparent that the ordinance protects us to a certain level, but there were other items in there that could have helped. And after reviewing other ordinances around the state and what they have, I put together a list of suggested changes or augmentations to our current ordinance. I believe the current ordinance as it sits is very good. It's just a few things here would help protect the residents, and also it also guarantees a few things for the owners that aren't in it right now. So that's basically what I'm here about, and also to let you know I'll be around more because I'm going to be representing more mobile home parks than just ours, and I'm concerned about us seniors and what we're facing right now, and also the future. I've looked at some other parks. I made a note on there that one of the parks actually has a rent cap at $750 at Palomar West. I'm going to be going to all the other parks and going and interviewing them all individually. What I'd like to do is work with somebody here at the city or a couple of your departments as we work through this. And I didn't know if we needed to put this like a docket item where we need more information, what our next step is to work on both the ordinance, see the suggestions there, what we do about inspection in the park. That's why I'm here.
Thank you very much, John. I know that we're looking at things. This is not on the agenda this evening, so we can't really discuss it. But we will definitely be in contact with you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
It's good seeing you all.
Thank you. Good to see you. Glenn, you can still speak this evening, being that we are not going to. We're going to continue.
I'll make it quick. I presented to you my concerns, and I know we'll be bringing those up in April, and that's wonderful. The only thing I continue to do is drive throughout the city. I have the free time to do it. I'm retired. But picking up on the traffic, as some of these people have said, and as we know, that's a major problem for us. I don't know how we're going to solve it, but we got to really talk about that in April. The other thing is that we're billed out at 77%, as I understand it, and we have about 23% of our property left to build on. So as a result of that, when we are trying to bring our population to a point where we have 79,000 more people coming, I don't know how that fits. I just gone through the math, and it doesn't work. So I'll leave you with the paper, and I will be looking to get some more paperwork from the city. I will thank Jack and his staff for they've been providing me with various pieces of information that I wanted before we have the meeting in April. So thank you.
Thank you, Glenn.
Okay. Any questions?
Okay. I appreciate your coming this evening. Okay, moving on to our public hearings this evening. We have item number 12, the ordinance 2023. Oh, I got to get my glasses on for this. 1529, adding chapter 17.10 and amending chapters 20.340, 20.340060, 20.500, and 20.600 of the San Marcos Municipal Code, implementing the requirements of AB 1236 to streamline processing of permit applications for electric vehicle charging stations and associated notice of exemption from CEQA requirements. Mr. Faraci, is that going to be you this evening?
Thank you, Mayor Jones. Jacqueline Paterno from the City Attorney's Office will be providing the presentation tonight.
Hi, everyone. So as introduced, I'm Jacqueline Paterno.
I'm not sure.
Jacqueline, can you
Yes.
make sure that your mic is on and that it's pulled toward you? We have people in the audience who are not able to hear back there.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Jacqueline Paterno, as said. I'm an associate in the City Attorney's Office. This ordinance implements AB 1236, which is state law involving electrical vehicle charging station permits and the application process. AB 1236 streamlines the EV charging station permit process. So essentially, it requires administrative approval of all EV charging stations. It takes out any discretion when reviewing EV charging station applications and limits the review to health and safety concerns. The city may consider a use permit only if the building official makes a finding of a specific adverse impact on public health and safety. And the city may reject a use permit only if there are written findings of a specific adverse impact on health and safety and there's no feasible method of mitigation. A little background context here is that the city has been receiving these applications and has been able to approve them in a quick manner. For example, residential applications were approved within hours and commercial applications approved within days. So other cities had been receiving these applications and was resulting in backlog, and that was the reason for the legislation. But San Marcos, essentially, there will be minimal impact on staff because we're already approving them in an expeditious manner. AB 1236 imposes three main obligations. First, we need to update our permit approval guidelines and processes. This has already been implemented. Staff is already considering applications, knowing that they have to limit their review to that of health and safety concerns. We also needed to create checklists and post those online. That has already been done, and I'll discuss the checklist more on the next slide. And lastly, we needed to adopt this ordinance. San Marcos has created three checklists, one residential, one commercial, and one multifamily. They're currently available on the Development Services website. Any person wishing to submit an application would go to the website, download a building permit and the applicable checklist, fill them out, and submit them along with the associated supporting documentation, all online. And all applications meeting the parameters of the checklist must receive an approval. And if there is an incomplete application, the city must provide written feedback outlining how the application can be brought into compliance. Again, the city has already implemented this process. If there are denials, they can be appealed to Planning Commission, and then the decision of Planning Commission would be final. We made several changes to the municipal code. First, we added chapter 17.10. This is the codification of the streamlining requirements of AB 1236. And we also made updates to chapter 20. First, we removed outdated requirements for EV spaces. So the code currently says that you need one EV space per 500 parking spaces and one additional for every additional 250 spaces. Now the code will require that all projects have 5% EV spaces for all commercial and multifamily projects, and that's 5% with an actual charger in the space, not just with the ability to have a charger put in later. And that puts us in line with the Climate Action Plan, and actually it also with state law, but that goes above and beyond what is required of state law. We also removed outdated requirements relating to different levels of charging stations. The levels refer to different, the levels refer to the ability, the electrical output of the charger. And the code currently allows certain levels of charging stations in certain zones. We remove that because now the only opportunity for review is the health and safety concern. We also added an exception to the permit requirements of the zoning code. Section 20.50.020 says that all permits must comply with Chapter 20. And we just created an exception for any project that's specifically regulated by state and federal law so that if there's differences, that's accounted for in our code. And lastly, we made updates relating to AB 1100. AB 1100 requires that EV charging spaces be counted as one full space when counting local parking requirements. Our code currently says that EV spaces should be counted for 1/2 of a parking space, so we just removed that section to reflect the new state requirement. Just a brief mention of AB 970. This does not require any updates to the municipal code, but it does interact with AB 1236 by setting response timelines for the EV charging station applications. For projects of 1 to 25 stations, if an application is deemed complete, if an application is not deemed complete or a written deficiency is not noticed or deficiency notice is not issued within 5 days, then it will automatically be deemed complete within 5 days. If an application is not approved, denied, or a use permit required within 20 days, it will be automatically approved within 20 days. And the same goes for projects of 26 stations or more, except that the timeline is 10 days and 40 days. In terms of CEQA, this is not a project within the meaning of CEQA, and if it were to be considered a project, it would be exempt as there is no significant effect on the environment. For the recommendation of Planning Commission by a 7-0 vote is to approve. We also recommend approval of the notice of exemption and also adoption of this ordinance.
Okay, Jacqueline, I did have a quick question. So this is the last requirement that we have for us to be in full compliance with the state law, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then this is actually for staff, Joe. So I'm assuming we would be keeping track of all of our inventory of electric charging stations so that we can comply with our climate action plan.
Correct.
How do we
keep track of that.
do we have like a list somewhere of or how do we know what that is? Do we just have to ask and are we putting that together? Just kind of curious.
Yes, we keep track of them through our CAP checklist, which we keep track of for each project. So
Okay.
we'll do those and look at those and tally them up, and then we could account for them as part of our biannual reporting.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Yes, Councilmember Musgrove.
So, Joe, when we're talking about residential, we're really talking about multifamily where we can actually see in the permitting process. But are we at all surveying our residents to find out who has an electric vehicle or a hybrid vehicle, whatever, a plug-in, to account for those? Or is that not factoring into any of the calculations?
The calculations are just based on the number of required parking spaces and then a 5% requirement based on that. So if I'm understanding you
Yeah.
correctly.
My question kind of takes a leap of faith that if we would be able to account for the number of residents who have an electric vehicle, we don't really have a way to quantify that.
No.
Okay. And then my other question for you, Counselor, is I think at the beginning you mentioned the turnaround time for commercial and residential. Could you repeat that, please?
In the beginning, I mentioned the turnaround time that the city has been able to conduct regardless of AB 1236, which was that they were turning residential applications within hours and commercial within days. The legislation, AB 970 has the, as I mentioned, the specific timelines, but it sounds like the city is beating those timelines, so
Okay,
it's not much.
that's what I thought you said. Thank you. Good presentation. Thank you.
By a lot, they're beating it. Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Question on when you discussed about the changing to 5% of the EV spaces in the parking areas. That would go into effect when? And any current applications that have already been approved would not be required to meet that 5%? So there's two questions there.
That requirement comes from the city's climate action plan, so I understand, as my understanding, that's already implemented, so it would be required for any project that comes forward.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thanks.
Oh, sorry, you'd have to fill out a speaker slip. I don't want Mrs. Peak to, we have to be very careful how we do that. Sorry, if you want to speak, you can fill out a speaker slip, John, if you'd like. Yeah, we just can't take questions from the audience like that. Any other questions, Maria or Mike? Any questions? Yes, Councilmember Nunez.
One question, you mentioned that the applicants have the right to appeal any denials to our planning commission. Have we had any instances where we've had appeals?
We have not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yes, Councilmember Sinella.
Just want to say that I'm glad that we're codifying this, and I'm also glad to hear that we were already kind of meeting the streamlined timelines anyways. I did have a question, though, with regards to chargers that are accessible to the public. Do we advertise that in any way on our website? I'm thinking like the Tesla chargers that we have over at Creekside, or any other chargers that we have that might be accessible to the general public versus ones that might be either privately owned or part of an apartment complex or a condominium complex.
We do not advertise them. Obviously, the one at the Tesla is on the city-owned shopping center, and so that's available to the public. Obviously, other people who put them on their properties, whether it's a shopping center or multifamily, it's really up to them to determine how they want to market those to the public and make them available to the public. I don't think that most of the multifamily developments, those are intended for the residents of those complexes, not necessarily for the general public, but we don't go out and advertise privately owned charging stations.
Okay, I did have one last question, and that is, when someone fills out an application, are we letting them know that there are a lot of grant opportunities out there, because there is a lot of grant money through SDG&E and whatnot to help install those chargers, being that it's not just pre-plumbing now, it's actually installing them?
We do have our EV grant program that was launched as part of the CAP, and we do have we have put that on social media, as well as handouts and other information informing applicants as they come in for those applications that EV rebate program is available to them.
Perfect. Okay. And then we do have a speaker. Sorry, I'm just trying to follow procedure, John. John Mosier, if you don't mind coming up. Sorry. I have to have a speaker slip at the end of the night, so I just want to make sure I have all my paperwork in order. Thank you.
I'll just grab a few extra. I had a question. When you're talking about residential for the EV charging stations, what about existing, like us, mobile home parks? We have, like our park has several large parking areas that they could put something like that in. I know some of our residents have the electric vehicles because I see them plugged in right at their home getting power through their meter.
Well, I would imagine that and I'll let staff weigh in on this, but I would imagine that your property owner would need to apply and be willing to install them. They're not, we don't get involved in that. So, but we do have grant opportunities, like we mentioned, through the city, but then they're also through SDG&E and whatnot. I don't know if staff wanted to add anything to that.
No, Mayor Jones, that's correct. It would have to be the property owner could install them. And we do have an EV grant program or rebate program available if you want to take advantage of that.
Yeah, so you would
there's no-
probably petition them, I would imagine.
Right.
And then maybe they could look into doing that and see what the cost would be.
So
I don't
there's
know.
no retroactive.
That's what I was going to say. There's
sorry.
no retroactivity to
Oh,
this
no,
on existing
no.
projects.
Correct,
This is for
yeah.
This is all new projects.
going
Yeah,
forward.
new projects, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thanks.
I didn't understand you were asking that. Thank you. Okay, Carol Gendell, speaker, come on down. Thank you.
Good evening. As someone who owns an EV and has a charging station at my house, I can tell you that public charging stations do show up, whoever the manufacturer is, they will come up as an app for anyone who is connected through an EV and looking for a charging station. Some of they're marked as either private or public, available for charging. It would, however, be really wonderful if the city did have a list of publicly available charging stations that was made available to people who were visitors, who were coming into the community, because it would make it easier for all of us to be able to know where to find them. But just so you know, the charging stations do come up on an app for those of us who are plugged in. So keep going. This is a great idea. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this is a public hearing. Any other questions from council? If not, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll move to close.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Okay, any further discussion? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
Move to
I'll move.
approve. Thank you.
Motion is second. I don't know, you guys were kind of at the same time. I'll let staff figure that one out. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any noes? No, motion passes unanimously. Okay, and then item 13, do I need to make a motion to table this?
That we do not have a date certain, so I think tabling the matter is a good idea.
I make a motion to table the item 13, which is the resolution of the City Council of the City of San Marcos confirming the next steps in the general plan update process, including the draft proposed land use map. Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any noes? Okay. Seeing none. Oral communications. I don't see any further speaker slips. Moving on to reports. San Diego Association of Governments. The last meeting was canceled. We did have a an executive committee meeting this last Friday. That was kind of interesting. We moved forward with our legislative platform. A lot of that included moving forward on legislative fixes to implementing road user fees, managed lanes, all of that sorts of things, alleviating transponder technology. So that is actually going to be moving forward to the full board, but that is to have the legislation passed to move forward with these initiatives, taking it out of the hands of the people. I'm adamantly opposed to that. I was the lone no vote on that, moving that from executive to the board of directors. We will be having our next meeting next Friday. And then we are also having a retreat in March where we will be discussing the weighted vote. And that was supposed to have already happened, but the board leadership has pushed that to the retreat. So more to stay tuned on that. I'm not sure what's going to happen with that discussion. Also, our auditor, our outside independent auditor is going to be retiring. I also asked that that be put on the agenda for immediately, which would have actually been the meeting that was supposed to happen on this past Friday, and that meeting, like I had mentioned, was canceled. So that will be coming up. There was some discussion at the executive committee to further put it off, which, again, I'm adamantly opposed to. So more to stay tuned on that. I think at the retreat, we will be discussing that, and we'll see what happens with that. I know you were at that meeting. Did you have anything further to add to that?
Thank you, Mayor. Subsequent to that meeting, I'm on the audit committee, and subsequent to that meeting, we had our audit committee meeting, and the public members who have been putting a lot of time and effort into putting the plan together and the selection process to replace our outgoing independent auditor, when they found out that the chair of the executive committee in Sandag had requested additional information coming in, their argument against that was that the audit committee sets the report and it goes to the board. It's not to be edited because then it's not the audit committee's report. So they were a little displeased. And then we have employees of Sandag who do all the heavy lifting for the independent auditor. They were effectively put on notice that the board may look at contracting the service out. And so they were effectively told that their jobs may not exist at some point, which is probably not a good thing to do with the auditors, because now the impetus for them would be to find a safety net. And kicking this can down the road another month when the selection process can take anywhere from 6 to 8 months to hire an independent auditor is very problematic. So that was made very clear to the board with the executive committee. I was there with the mayor, and it didn't hold sway. So we are at that point now, and hopefully some resolution, but hope it's not a strategy.
Okay, thank you. League of California Cities report. Councilmember Musgrove.
Yes. Do you want to go first, Mike?
I think this is for your meeting today,
Okay.
right?
We met yesterday. Yeah, met yesterday. Let me find my notes. There they are. Excuse me. We also had, at the meeting, we had Maurice Lyles, who's the regional director from the Office of Governor Newsom, and his assistant, Zach Boonshaft. And they brought some guidelines that the governor's using and proposing to the state legislature through the budgeting process, some of their priorities. One of the things that's on there is it's a state-mandated program costs owed to local government, and it's nearly $1 billion. It's actually $933.5 million. And really what it comes down to is some of the unfunded liabilities. So mandates that come down from Sacramento, the shalls, and you have to do this, but they don't provide the funding source. And the League of California Cities are adamantly opposed to that, more of the same, because it puts the burden on local jurisdictions without providing any compensation for it. Although the tax dollars do go to Sacramento, they don't come back. So the League's priorities for the 23, their advocacy priorities are to protect and expand investments to prevent and reduce homelessness, increase the supply and affordability of housing while retaining local decision-making, improve public safety in our communities, and safeguard essential local revenues and support fiscal sustainability. So the League of California Cities, there's also one for the county, but the League of California Cities is very focused on maintaining local control. And it does seem to be an uphill battle, but that is a priority.
You mean getting it back?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's been slowly wrenched away along with the funds that we used to have available to us to address issues locally. We have a big state, geographically, population, demographically, and the way that our cities are organized and structured. So you can't really cookie cutter a policy. It needs to be broken up regionally, and the best way to do it is already in place, and that's with the local jurisdictions. give them back their money and let them make the decisions, just give them the guidelines, and that would be the best way to handle it. And I do want to address two things. One of the governor's mandates is to increase the housing supply, and this was provided by his office. The state adopted a legally binding goal that local governments must plan to build approximately 2.5 million new units by 2030, and 1 million of these units must be affordable. So
Must be without any funding.
must be.
Interesting.
Right. And
Okay.
the last thing I want to do is congratulate my peer, Councilmember Nunez, for her position. She's been appointed as the first vice president of our San Diego district for the League of California Cities.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And we do have a vacancy for a second vice chair.
Well, I thought about putting in for that, but as,
Looked a little bit
as a city's rep,
voluntellish.
it was borderline voluntold.
Yes.
I can
think
certainly
so.
throw my hat in the ring, but then we end up with the San Marcos monopoly, which may not be a bad thing.
We do have that vacancy, so
Okay.
I think, I haven't seen, we'll probably consider filling that at the next month.
I'll send my email down to our
Good to
coordinator.
know. All right, North County Transit District, Deputy Mayor Jenkins.
We meet on Thursday.
Okay. North County Dispatch Joint Powers Authority, Councilmember Nunez.
Thank you, Mayor. We're also meeting next week, so we are scheduled to be next Wednesday, so it'll be my first meeting.
Okay, so don't forget to find out when the next tour day is, so that I think Councilmember Sinella would find that very valuable, but I know that I would go again too, just to say hello and thank them for their service, because I think it's great. You know, dispatch is a very difficult job. They go through a lot, and it's definitely worth recognizing them for their service. Okay, Clean Energy Alliance, Councilmember Musgrove.
Thank you, Mayor. We discussed a lot of different items at the last meeting, mostly having to do with the way that the exit fees are aligned for the different cities that are part of the Clean Energy Alliance. And it really has to do with when the particular city has joined. So our fees that we charge our residents as we transition over will be slightly higher than what Solana Beach, Del Mar, Carlsbad have it, but it's when they join the alliance. So what happens is when the city joins, their exit fees are locked into the rates you're paying currently with SDG&E. Ultimately, though, I have the chart. No matter what is charged, it will still be less than what you're currently paying on your SDG&E bill. We were also asked to consider, and I did it with some regret, but we approved working with the San Diego Community Power. So that is essentially City of San Diego, County, and some of the other jurisdictions. They've set up their own clean energy program to work on what's called a regional energy network. And they're all over the state and they're all over the country. And what the benefit to it is we currently receive money through the California Public Utilities Commission. So it comes from the federal side to the CPUC, and they carve out their little piece, and then they send us funds to help support our operation. If you're part of a regional energy network, the money comes directly to that network. So we would cut out the CPUC. We would ultimately receive more funds within the region. My concern is that we receive our fair share and that the lion's share, and granted the lion's share would go down to San Diego based on population, but proportionally to make sure we get the share that we would otherwise have received, and probably a little bit more if we remove what the carve-out would have been for the CPUC. So we asked our staff to look into that and bring us back a report. City of San Diego are funding the entire analysis. So then I will also be looking at that analysis to make sure it's completely unbiased and equitable for everyone.
I have a quick question on that. Just want to make sure it's not a situation where there will be some sort of weighted vote, because I understand that they actually have a weighted vote in their community choice. So I want to make sure that allocation is based on population and not based on who has the most power, seemingly in the room, the big gorilla. I don't mind them actually getting their money out of the, back for their investment, as far as them actually doing the study. But at the end of the day, we can't be in another situation that we're at, like at Sandag.
Now, the board made it abundantly clear
Okay.
to the CEO that if the discussion goes to a weighted vote, we're not going to approve that.
No.
And quite frankly, San Diego Community Power stands to lose more than we do if this doesn't happen. So they can do their weighted vote within their own board, but as far as a joint power, it would have to be unbalanced, equal voting across the board.
Okay.
And real quickly, on Thursday, we have our first public information. It's at the San Marcos Senior Activity Center, 111 Richmar, and I will be there along with our CEO and other members of the Clean Energy Alliance to offer a presentation. San Marcos Senior Activities. This Thursday, 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock.
Quick question too. I was speaking to Mayor White from Escondido the other day, and he had mentioned that I think the notices had gone out to their residents. Have we? I haven't seen anything yet.
I received one.
You received one?
Yesterday, I believe.
Okay, I didn't check my
I did
mail
too.
yesterday. Okay, so they're mailing them out this week. Oh, that's good to know. And this is, you have to opt out. You don't opt in. You have to opt out if you do not want to. But your bill will look exactly the same, and then also your, it's just a separate line item.
Right.
And it, transmission is still handled by SDG&E regardless of who your actual provider is.
That's correct. SDG&E handles all the billing. We are the contracting. So within our group of the different cities, we provide those contracts for power and are able to negotiate better rates, and we then don't have the overhead that SDG&E adds to the billing. So it'll ultimately be a little bit cheaper. Our goal is a minimum of 2%, and just so you know, they call them vintages. It's when you enter into the system. We have, I believe it's Solana Beach. They have traditionally been paying more than on average in the rest, but because we're coming into the new year and most of their exit fees have been paid, they may see a reduction upwards of 15% above what we're seeing. But it all cycles through, and we'll all be having an advantage on our bills and still getting consistent power.
Councilmember Sinella, did you have something?
Yeah, just a quick question, more out of curiosity. I did receive the postcard that came in the mail yesterday. I think they might have started mailing those out, probably at the beginning of the week. And because I've seen some posts on social media about people asking questions about it. I just wanted to check with staff. Have we received any feedback from anybody retracting that?
Not that I'm aware of, but we would direct them to Clean Energy Alliance if we did.
Okay. Great.
I wonder if it would be possible if we could have something on our website, just mentioning Thursday's meeting. I don't know if that would be appropriate. I just feel like, anytime someone has a question, it's better to give a lot of information rather than maybe not enough.
I can check whether the website or if we've done anything on social media.
Okay.
But we would definitely would be mirroring what CEA is doing.
Yeah,
We're not
exactly.
trying to step
Yeah.
into that process.
I think having a social media post sounds like a great idea too, just so we get out, the information to everyone. Okay, Deputy Mayor, you had something?
I was just going to mention about receiving the card. There's a lot of verbiage on it. You have to read a lot to get to the fine print of that you can opt out. And I don't think it said anywhere on it that, Mike, maybe you might remember, I don't think it said anywhere that we had decided to go with the 50% renewables. Is it supposed to say anything on it or no?
I don't know whether it's supposed to saying, the default was the 75%, not the 50%.
Oh, I thought we had done the 50%.
No, the default we selected was the 75%.
Okay.
So the default is 75% if you do nothing at all. You do have the option of 50%, not joining at all as an individual and staying with SDG&E, or you can go 100%. Once you select one of those options, you would then be locked into that for 1 year, simply because there's an administrative process with SDG&E, because the contracts are let based on the number of people that opt in at a specific clean energy rate. And if it fluctuates back and forth, it simply costs money for everyone. So we try and keep some stability in that.
So residents actually have multiple options.
They have several options, yes.
Opt out.
Opt
if
out.
you want, which few do typically. And then if you stay in, you're agreeing to the 75% that we had decided. but you can change your percentage. If you really want to go 100%, you might pay a little more, but you could make that choice.
That's correct. Currently, the state requires, I believe it's about 38.5% for any provider. So SDG&E is working towards that 50% goal, but that's a moving target. It will eventually be 100% for everyone. So the 75% gives us, as a community, a great opportunity to get ahead of the game. And then as we see it moving forward, everyone will be notified that this is what we'll be looking at. And those contracts that we have will be focused more on non-fossil fuel sources.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
I love the effort. I think what we're doing with Clean Energy Alliance is a great idea. I'm not convinced that the majority of our residents know what Clean Energy Alliance is at this point, and that's understandable. They're relatively new. Forever, they've been getting their gas and electric from San Diego Gas and Electric, and so that's what they know and understand. And so the more that both Clean Energy Alliance and the city can communicate this change and provide information, I think is a worthwhile effort.
All right, thank you. Okay, anything else? Yeah, oh, sorry.
I have
Yeah,
a
go
couple of
ahead.
comments and questions. I'm going to echo some of what's been said. I think there's a lot of questions and a lot of confusions with our residents not really sure what's expected or what they could, or what they've received. I, for one, have not seen that postcard that's been mailed. But I am wondering, for instance, the workshop that's happening this Thursday, I have not seen any advertisement. I'm not sure how the Clean Energy Alliance is advertising. I haven't seen anything on their website. So I would definitely like to see some follow-up in terms of what they're doing and how the education is happening. I'm just not seeing it, and I think there are a lot of questions. One of the other things that I have heard and seen is that some of our Lake San Marcos residents are not really sure if they're impacted by it, and they're not, obviously, because they fall under county jurisdiction, so they're not part of the clean. So those are just some of the things that I have seen and heard, and so I would definitely like to see more education and more follow-up.
Great question, Councilmember Nunez. So the Lake San Marcos comes under the San Diego Community Power because anyone who is not in an incorporated city, such as Lake San Marcos, they default to the San Diego County Power, which is the city of San Diego, the county, I believe National City and Chula Vista, and one or two more jurisdictions on the southern part of the county are part of that. And also, this is extremely important for a lot of our people that are English as a second language are still working towards that to some degree of, total understanding that we've asked for positive translation services for these presentations so that everyone has an opportunity to get a full reckoning of what we're looking at.
So, Jack, I think it would be a good idea if we are going to be able to put this on social media, that we find out if it's also going to be in Spanish, and we may want to put both on our social media so that everyone knows exactly what's going on.
I think we should ask CEA to do that and then share what they do because they
Yeah,
are
share whatever they're
responsible
doing.
for doing
Yeah.
it. And they're
But
a
if they're-
governmental entity that,
Yeah.
that is responsible for this activity, so.
Yeah.
That's a great point, Mr. Griffith, because this is not a city function. We're simply a member agency. This is a separate joint powers, if you will. So I am your liaison, happy to answer any questions and get you directed to the right people, but definitely we'll express that back to the board to ensure that everyone is made aware of what's going on. And this is not the only presentation. This is just the first one we're having in San Marcos. The plan is to have several more, and we'll certainly let everybody know when they are and where.
All right, thank you. Okay, City Council business visits. Councilmember Musgrove and I, did anyone else go on any? No. Councilmember Musgrove and I went to Leading Note Studios, which it's right there on San Marcos Boulevard, right at Rancho Santa Fe Road. There used to be a dental office there, and I forget what the other business was. It's in the CVS. It's kind of an interesting location. It's around the corner at CVS, so it actually faces San Marcos Boulevard, not Rancho Santa Fe Road. And if you know where the train taco shop is, it's directly across the street from that.
Used
That
to be
gives
the
you an
bagel.
idea.
Used to be
what?
the bagel.
The bagel? I don't know. I don't know. I just, it's been a Mexican restaurant for quite a while. Anyway, they have a lot going on there. So this actually opened, so the owner is Camille Hastings, who's been in music her whole life. She relocated from Nashville in 2002 to San Diego County, and Leading Note Studios is modeled after a company Camille worked for in Nashville for over 10 years. And her original location was in Encinitas, and then she decided to expand into San Marcos in 2020, February. So we all know what happened in March of 2020. It was a very rocky road for her, but she made it through. It's really interesting because her model is kids and adults. So it's not just kids, it's music, it's all types of things. Also singing, she does a lot of different things. Jump right in, Councilmember Musgrove, anything you want to add to that? And there's mixing, the sound engineering. That's there too. And they're going to be working on expanding that too. They have a lot of social media, by the way.
They have a.
There we are on the studio. Look, we look like stars. No, I'm just kidding. And no, I didn't sing for anyone because literally I don't sing. But anyway, they've got a beautiful space there.
They have a stage right
Yeah.
there. In fact, we're standing at the stage where they put on plays. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I forgot the other one.
James and the Giant.
James and the Giant Peach. And I asked her about whether or not they would be able to coordinate some of the younger musicians to do the background music with the play. That's a little more involved, but they're certainly working toward that.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of different rooms for different type instruments and instructions, and with the sound mixing, which is fantastic. What they're doing is they're allowing the people that are interested in sound mixing to listen in on a lesson and the music that's being played, and use that as the live lab experiment, if you will, to then coordinate that with other music. Because it's not as easy as it seems to get it all right, and it all matters that the tempo. They have to keep their time on their music, and they use metronomes to do that, and then it affords those mixers the opportunity to take the guitar, brass, other strings, and put it all together as an ensemble. It's really very interesting. I've never met anyone who is so energetic, enthused about music as Camille. She's just a fantastic person to be around.
Well, there's so much more coming too. There's all this stuff at the end.
I was ad-libbing.
Well, so she's actually already thinking, okay, what's the next step? I mean, she'd like to take up more space. And you know, it's interesting, when I was at Leadership North County, Democracy in Action. Oh, I'm all confused. Democracy in Action, one of the teachers came up, and she actually owns New West Ballet here in San Marcos, and she said, we don't have a space. And I went, okay, well, it's a small space, but Leading Note is actually moving toward opening up their business at some point in time for other venues. They're working on their permitting to get that done, but they really want to open it up for a lot of different things, and they do have, the lighting and everything, so they're working on doing that. She's hoping to have a music and comedy venue, and they're also talking to the schools to find out if there's something at a later date that they might need a venue. So they really want to have it as an open venue at some point in time. They currently, as of January 2023, so they started out with where was it? I'm looking for the number. I want to say it was 500 students, right around 500. And now, there it is, 500 total students before COVID with us, with Encinitas and San Marcos. And now they're up to 1,100 in both locations. Yeah, and it's about 80% children and 20% adults. They're really excited at the growth. And, I think, too, part of what happened during COVID with schools being closed, there really was the need for that outlet of music, and it really does bring a lot of joy. I mean, I know, when I get in my car, that's the first thing my music actually never goes off, to be honest. I think that really is a great outlet for people, and a creative outlet, and I think during COVID we really have seen that it's really important for people to have that, and that's one of the things that she really has focused on. So again, up to 1,100 students, which is really exciting. Anything else? Okay, and then moving on to the Creek Project update, our city manager, Jack Griffin.
Madam Mayor, pretty much the same as last meeting. Sound wall construction along Discovery is continuing. Retaining walls at the corner of Via Veracruz and Discovery are complete. Bridge deck forming is happening, so we'll be to pour the bridge deck in a not too distant future. And we're still doing storm drain installation on the project. As you know, we lost some time because of all the rain. I'm trying to gain that back.
Are we planning on pouring this month or next month?
I'd have to ask Isaac in terms of that, but it's only 14 days left in this month, so probably next month.
Oh, darn. Okay, rain, rain, go away. We want our deck poured on the Veracruz Bridge. Okay, council commentary. Don't know if everyone knew, but January 28th was our 60th birthday. We're really excited about it. Actually, tomorrow there is a feature on the Zevely Zone on Channel 8 that's going to be featured. We had a little cake blowing. We were in North City, and Pia Harris-Ebert, who was our first woman that was ever elected to our San Marcos City Council, was interviewed. And it's really exciting times here in San Marcos. We have a lot going on this year in our birthday year, and that is going to be our Creek Project being completed, the hospital being completed all in around the summertime, and a lot of exciting things happening. And then someone brought up something a little bit earlier, which reminded me to remind folks out in the audience, we have reported concern for anything you see. You can actually take a picture of a situation like an out street light, something like that, crack in the sidewalk, and it's all geotagged, so you can fill out the form, but also add a picture, and they will know exactly where that's located, which is super handy. So that you can find on our website. If you just put in the search engine, report a concern, it'll take you right to the website, right to the page. And then also it's San Marcos app on your smartphones. You can find that and download it. And it's really simple to use. Just want to remind everyone at home. Anything that comes up, potholes, it's really easy. That way you don't have to contact your council members. It'll make it a lot easier for city staff. Jack, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
I just want to say that the reported concerns regarding city facilities, not private facilities.
Oh, yeah, no, city. Yes, city facilities. Thank you for the clarification.
Sure.
Anything that we would handle, yeah, definitely
Staff
not
is
your
thanking me
homeowners
more.
associations. Oh, no, we don't want those. We don't want those on there. Definitely all city things. But sidewalks are almost always city. Potholes that are within the city, not in your private driveway or anything like that. Sorry, we can't fix those things. They're all of our taxpayer dollars. Any other council commentary? Yes, Councilmember Sanella.
Yeah, and I don't know if I missed my opportunity to present this during the League of California Cities portion, but at the Water District, we would present our conferences at the end of the meeting. And so I just wanted to note that February 1st through the 3rd, I went through the new Mayors and Council Members Academy through the League of California Cities. I called it City Council School. And it was very informative, and it was also a great opportunity to interact with other council members and mayors throughout North County and actually throughout the entire state. So it was good to get to know them a little bit better. But some of the topics that were covered were the state required, anti-harassment, preventative training, ethics training, and then there was a lot of presentations on kind of best practices on how to conduct a city council meeting, and our role and our legal aspects of our role, and land use planning and all of that good stuff. So it was very beneficial, and thank you for city staff, Jack, and everybody for coordinating that effort to get me up there.
Did they tell you one of the most important things that we always implement here?
No.
Keep politics out of our council meetings.
Absolutely.
And serve the people. Number one thing, I think, anyway. Any other discussion? No? Okay. With that, this meeting is adjourned. Oh, and if you are out in the public and you need us to sign a public request, we're happy to do that. Thank you. This meeting's adjourned.
Your attendance documents from school?
I don't know if we have any. I think they're